Good evening, everyone, and welcome to round 4 of the Raceface Season 6. And yes, you well spotted, it is Spa this evening indeed, so thank you for that. As we then look to switch over and start watching the quali. Mr. Walker in the lead at the moment. It's just over 20 minutes to go. I think we will see some reasonable lap times coming in, a lot of shuffles as we race around in the dark this evening. Track temperatures obviously got to be taken into consideration as the guys adjust their tire pressures. There we go, as we get the leaderboard up, sitting in and that seems to be in order of joining. I'm not sure if anyone has got any quali times in as yet, if anyone's done a clean lap. Yeah, some lap times coming in. Luke Addison coming in at the top there, but one of the first with some times in. Lionel Clue coming in, so we're seeing a couple of 2:18s coming in as a start. Fair amount of movement as well this week with the team standings. As we also see a bit of a shuffle in names. I see there's a Hybrid Academy 2 has popped up onto the list, so not sure whether that was one of the previous hybrid team names, Stealth, Velocity or Force, take your pick, not quite sure. But as it stands, there are 2 hybrid teams. 1 hybrid team, in fact. No, 2 hybrid teams. Hybrid Community team sitting in 3rd, and in 6th place, a Hybrid Academy 2. Kai Racing FR, of course, coming in to 7th, and then Kai Racing sitting at 10th. Bot Squad, also a new contender in the top 10. Not sure if that was a name change. I have noticed a number of names that was in the top 10 last week, such as Retro Solo, who's dropped out, although we have Retro Electro sitting in 8th position. Oh, the autopilot's going a little bit berserk, so perhaps we should take control over that again. As we see Tariq Adam coming up through to the Kemmel Straight. So far his best being a 2:17, 7:69, putting him in top spot with Junior McCall right behind him, or 5/10ths behind him, shall I rather say. Some interesting scenes as we get some evening views. Okay, should make for some interesting racing. I think most of these gents will be able to drive the track with their eyes closed nonetheless, so I I don't think there's too many concerns on whether they'll be able to navigate and find their way around the track. Just hope the guys get their tyre pressures right. A Rouge at the best of times can be a bit of a challenge if you don't catch those corners at the right angles and get the right grip. This is obviously one of those fantastic tracks, I believe, for enduro. Some really good straights to get some good speed as we see King come dragging through the corner here in the sweeping bends. Coming up into 15 minutes left of quali, with pretty much everyone on the grid now having put a time in, ranging from Brian Lewis's 2:17.4 all the way through to Byron Walker, now sitting on a 2:20. As we go further down, Paul Gerber 4/10 up from Team Tryhard Racing. At the moment 3/10 up. If he has to maintain that, he could put himself in top 10. But again, still a fair amount of time to go before quali is done and dusted and we settle on that final grid. Love those little Lumo stickers on the side of the car in the evening shots. Stunning little neon lights going across the top of Gerber's Honda as he gets his quickest time, being a 2:18.993. Junior McCall currently sitting in 10th position on that leaderboard. His best time being a 2:18.285. See Junior McCall trying to push it to its limits on that Kemmel straight. This being one of the more interesting sections on the track for me. I tend to lose my rear end quite easily as I try and take that left-hand sweep. And if that one's don't get the right exit speed out of there, then you're in trouble. Someone behind you gets it nicely tucked in, will definitely gain on you, and a really good point obviously to take advantage of those that struggle in those corners. With some cold tyres this evening, I think we might see a fair amount of guys struggling in some of these quicker bends. Love that little light on top of that Merc. Looks like a bit of a lightsaber. Just letting everyone know he's there. Cutting through the track. Mr. Ottens sitting in 8th position at the moment with his 2:17.919. Sitting with 10 minutes to go. Johan Bego Grobler now sitting in 1st position, having done 6 laps on a 2:17.136. Tariq Adam jumping the queue somewhat, now sitting in 2nd position on a 2:17.328. Johan Bego Grobler currently 3/10 up on his best time. Well, dropped somewhat. I'm sure he'll be keen to maintain pole position. We see Max coming through the final chicane, holding it nicely. See him now jumping up to 13th position with his 2:18.168, driving the Ferrari this evening, number 617. He decides he's going to go back into the pits, possibly change some tyre pressures, go and give it another go. As we see Luke Addison currently sitting in 9th position, slightly up on his best time. Will he be able to sneak another spot or two? Yeah, if Luke can make it through this final chicane, maintaining his speed, he could definitely jump up a number of spots. Seems like he is going to maintain it and pull it through, and there we go, up to 7th for the time being in his Aston. Hannes van Wyk from Black Widow Racing in his 115 Lexus. Oh, nicely held. He's currently 3/10 up on his lap, so definitely the best first section so far. See if he can maintain it. It is a rather long track, lots of corners where mishaps can happen at the best of times. Kirstein from Team Tryhard Racing, almost a second up on his previous best time, so this will definitely shoot him up somewhat. No. No, still 4/10 off of Henneberry, sitting in 22nd position. So that 1 second didn't really catapult him anyway. Hopefully he can do it on this one. Isherwood sitting now in 24th. Pretty sure he'd want to get some reasonable lap times in. Very quickly get out there and get some additional laps in. He's only had the opportunity to do 2. Don't know if that's by choice or maybe a late join. Kirstein in one of the 3 Bentleys on the track this evening, the other 2 being Hall and Van Lochrenberg. Isherwood from Retro Esports, having put in a 2:18.930. Unfortunately, it's one of those that doesn't count. With 2.5 minutes to go, I'm pretty sure he'd want to at least get 1 lap in. Clean lap, that is. He's done 3 already. Isherwood jumping up to 17th position now with his 2:18.174. Currently, Johan Bego sitting in first, Tariq Adam second, Junior McCall third, Brian Lewis fourth, making up the first two rows of the grid. Doesn't look too much will change unless Lionel Klug can maintain his 3/10 up. Oh, there we go. He's decided to take second position in his Audi 969. Some funky pink. Decides to call it a day as we have 15 seconds left. We seem to be coming to the conclusion of the quali. I think that grid is now getting settled and we're almost off to the races. Should be interesting. Hopefully the guys can hold it up Eau Rouge for the first lap, well, every lap for that matter. Get into single file as soon as possible. And of course start pushing each other throughout the race. Not off the track, not bumper cars, some nice clean racing. That's the order of the day. As we see another little lightsaber sitting on top of the Merc, this time a little orange one. Going to have a bit of Clone Wars this evening. Lewis currently 4/10 up, which could put him in the second row if he's able to maintain this. As he comes close to finishing his lap. As he comes up to the final chicane. Still sitting 4/10 up. Can he hold it? Oh, he even pushed it even harder. 5/10 up. Get a nice little exit there. There we go. He should be sitting on second row. In fact, sitting in the first row. Doing a little bit of a nosedive in his 101. Great work there, Mr. Lewis. As we now get ready to kick off the 80-minute race. Just over 2.5 minutes to go. Now would be a good time to go take a break if needed. Stretch that legs a bit. As we get settled into 80 minutes of Spa, this being round 4 of season 6 of Raceface GT3 ACC Championships. Mr. Road, is rather unfortunate that you aren't on the track this evening. Definitely would have spiced things up. 1 minute to go. If you need to grab something from the fridge, better run. It'll take you at least 30 seconds. If you're undecisive of what you need out of the fridge, might take longer, so you're going to have to make snappy. $16 degrees out on track at the moment. I'm sure the guys are going to do their utmost best to get those tires warm, get the right pressures in them. Luckily they've all got their lights on. No, I wouldn't say all. Hopefully everyone monitors their warning. They need to switch them on within 3 rounds as Johan Bego Grobler kicks off. As we see all the guys gingerly working their way through. Some beautiful liveries here that we're seeing this evening, or this morning should I say, as we just go past 5 AM in the sim. It's getting a little bit lighter. Track should warm up somewhat. Not too sure whether it make too much of a difference though. See Junior McCall in his ATK livery. A little bit further back, sitting in 10th position, his brother Morgan in his slightly different coloured ATK livery. As we worked our way through the final section, coming up to the final chicane. Everyone now having to catch up, go side by side. keep their positions. As we come through the final corners, down to the last straight between Mr. Grobler and Mr. Lewis. It'll be interesting to see who comes out as king of the hill. As we get closer to that starting line, and off we go. We have a green. So far everyone's sticking to their lines, making it through quite nicely, front to the pack at least. As we check in through to the back, it seems like we might have just had a spin out, but outside of that we have ourselves a race. Nice and quick off the mark. Already we have Lewis taking the lead. Rather interesting. For a moment there, this thing was very confused, showing Hanneberry as first, but it has rectified itself. Lewis still in first position, Johan Bego Grobler right behind him, and Adam right on his tail. So Audi, Bentley, McLaren. But most importantly, it is hybrid, hybrid, hybrid at the moment. Oh, apologies, Brian Lewis, Retro Neon. As they make their way through, having completed their first lap. Oh, Edison unfortunately slipping out, and it seems like Junior McCall right behind him, having lost quite a couple of positions. I'm not sure if that's right at the back of the pack. I think, oh, it seems like it is. McCall then having to fight his way back. Luckily he has a fair amount of time to do so. Leaderboard taking some time to catch up with what is actually happening. Not sure, is commentary gone? seems to be functional this side. Would be good to get some feedback if the audio does go missing. On the other hand, I suppose me saying that, if the audio is missing, no one would know. Addison in 17th position after a bit of a slide out a little bit earlier on. As we see Lewis still holding his first position. Ottens from KK Racing sitting in 9th in his Aston. Nice and colourful with his blue and green. He comes into Oruge, seeing some nice sparks flying there from the car in front. Makes it through nice and clean. Oh, the Bentley on the back end, of course, doing a little bit of an excursion there. Max, unfortunately, also doing a bit of an excursion in his 617 Ferrari, currently sitting in 20th position. Having slid out and lost quite a few positions. Oh dear, as we see, I believe that was a Bentley sitting in the background there. So not sure who's going to be dropping a couple of positions. Not sure if the guys are struggling somewhat with their pressures. Definitely a couple of unintended slide outs, that's for sure. Kube for Cases, sitting in 8th position. His gold Audi. Being hunted down by that big Aston as Otten sits right on his tail, takes the outside. Is he going to be able to carry through that speed? And he does. And Kube will tend to want to have to back off. And as he tucks in behind him, Ottens takes that position. Lochenberg in his Bentley, being chased down by Paul Gerber in his Honda, number 51. As the track starts getting lighter and lighter. Guys have a little bit more visibility at least around the track. Not that I think you needed to see anyone further than the one right in front of you and the one just chasing you. but at least they can enjoy the scenery as they race. Isherwood currently in 6th position. Only 2 people having gone through the pits already, that being Van Wyk and Walker. Quite possibly to try and repair some damage from earlier incidents. Hall from Retro Esports sitting right behind Gerber. Definitely within striking distance. Gerber opening up that gap somewhat, ever so slightly. Hall, of course, wanting to keep that big Bentley on him. Oh, and he seems to have carried some of that speed through as they come into the final chicane. And as Gerber and Hall go over into the last corner, down to the last straight, let's see whether we have a little showdown coming up into Eau Rouge. Who shall be king of the hill? Take your foot off slightly going up here. If you lose it, then you're definitely going to be in trouble. No, oh dear, as Hall slides out, smashes his front into the barriers. I'm assuming he's going to send himself straight to pits. No, decides he's going to swing his rear end around and just get back on the track and get the job done. Hopefully not too much damage caused there. As we check in on our leader, Brian Lewis. It's 101 Audi. Pulling away somewhat from Johan Bego Grobler. Now almost a 1.5 second gap between them, with Adam 1.5 seconds behind Grobler. As we get closer to the 60-minute mark. As we check in on Mr. Addison, sitting in 15th position at the moment for a hybrid community team. His best so far being a 2:18.432, which just lands up being his previous lap. So I'm sure as we go along, as the fuel tanks start getting lighter, as the track gets warmer, as the tires get warmer, I'm sure he's going to want to get some consistency in the lower numbers. Start progressing through the pack. Junior McCall now sitting in 17th position, 2 spots behind Addison. Heading on to almost a 5-second gap. Of course, sitting just outside 2 seconds behind Mr. Gerber in his Honda. Junior McCall not able to beat his best on the previous lap. His best being a 2:19.428. The leader, Brian Lewis, of course, his best time is a 2:17.559. So almost 2 seconds off the pace. Pretty sure he would want to pick that up somewhat. Oh dear, as we see Skitter come through with a drive-through penalty. Hope he remembers what happened 2 weeks back, and this is Spa, the longest pit stop ever. You need at least 2 liters of fuel just to get through there. So if any of his teammates are listening, please remember to advise him he needs more fuel. Skitter in his yellow Ferrari, his Bumblebee. His best time at the moment being a 2:18.441, and in he goes, serves his time, pays his dues. Lionel Clues, currently 4th position for Black Widow Racing. Morgan McCall right behind Clue. 1.7 seconds in his AMG. Hannes van Beek also coming through with a drive-through penalty. Drive through cleared for Skitter as he comes out now in 19th position. A little bit of a battle for him to get to where he needs to be. I think the most important is just avoid those drive-throughs. As we come to closer to the middle of the pack, Bernard King in 8th position. Currently 2/10 up on his best time. That being a 2:18.597, so also about a second off the pace. Lewis's last lap being a 2:18.045, with previous laps being sub 2:18. Still maintaining a healthy lead, of course, 1.5 seconds ahead of Johan Bego-Grobler, who refuses to let that lead extend, as it's maintained at that roundabout there for pretty much most of the race, after Lewis got a really good start and got a nice little pull away. As we check in on the other McCall brother, Morgan. His black ATK livery. And of course his lightsaber on the roof. Well, taking it a bit wide there, keeping it in. King with Ottens right behind him, taking advantage of that airflow, trying to tuck himself in as close as he can. Free in his Ferrari number 477. Two Ferraris for Ian Max coming through the final chicane. Birds of a feather. As we see the other two Ferraris a little bit further up, also keeping themselves company there, is Antle and Gray in 9th and 10th. And interestingly, right in front of that is, of course, 3 Astons. Top of the pack, not really being dominated by any specific car, starting with the Audi, Bentley, McLaren, and then Clue, of course, in the second Audi, sitting in the top 5, and then Morgan McCall with his AMG. Jason Gray sitting in 9th position. With Antel right behind him. Oh, and we have a couple of side-by-sides. As Nkubi ends up going wide. Oh dear. As Greiling slips out, loses a couple of spots. A few guys coming past with momentum into that final chicane. Adam sitting with Clue right on his tail. Oh, doesn't Clue unfortunately doesn't get that first little turn just right, so didn't quite get the traction he needed up there. Van Lochenberg in his 136 Bentley sitting in 13th position. Greiling right behind him, just shy of 4/10. Adam and Clue still duking it out here for 3rd and 4th place. Clue just not relenting. Sitting just shy of 4/10 as he takes a chance here on the outside. Is he going to make it? No, goes out a little bit too wide. Going to have to tuck back in behind Adam and loses quite a bit of momentum coming out of the chicane onto the straights. Adam, of course, taking a nice healthy lead there now. At least 1.1 second additional lead over Clue. Very unfortunate. Risky little maneuver there for sure. Unfortunately didn't pay off this time, but I'm pretty sure he's going to hunt Tariq down for another opportunity. Morgan McCall sitting in 5th position. He's sitting a few spots back behind Tariq. Kubir sitting right behind Entel. Oh, getting some nice exit speed here as Nkube decides this is the moment. He shall be taking Antel. Antel unfortunately not getting the exit speed he would have liked out of that long sweeping corner. Nkube making his way through to the top 10. 2 Ferraris now sitting ahead of him in the form of Gray and King. King, of course, sitting right behind Ottens. Well, as he decides to take a chance, takes it on the inside. Ottens tucking in behind him. As we get closer to that 40-minute mark, we will see some guys going through the pits, and as I say it, Greiling now going through. Him currently being in 18th position in his AMG, number 16. Paul Gerber sitting in 14th position with McCall right on him. Junior McCall, that is. Definitely gets a really good shift of weight as he comes through that final chicane. Now sitting right behind Gerber, wanting to see where can he squeeze. Gerber, of course, trying to make himself as wide as possible. Doesn't give McCall too many options. Johan Bego Grobler seems to be closing that gap down somewhat on Lewis, as it is now a 1 second gap. As I say that, he falls back slightly. As we watch this little battle, McCall still trying to make himself known. Squeezes on the inside, he maintains it side by side. Able to hold it as they come into the right, left, right, or vice versa. Being able to hold that position and now pulling away from Gerber. Gerber not being able to tuck himself in closely behind McCall. Lewis again pulling away somewhat from Grobler in the front. Now back to a 1.3 second lead. As we get closer to that pit window, King, we see his now going in, doing his mandatory pit stop. So we have another Ferrari flying in. The top three still steady, with majority of the leaderboard not having gone through the pits, with King, Max, Greyling and Hall having served theirs. Hanbury in the pits at the moment. As we see Adam, Clue and Morgan McCall now going into the pits, that being the 3rd, 4th and 5th positions at the moment. As we see Gerber shooting into the pits. Jan Bago Grobler struggling somewhat to reel Lewis in. Every time he starts reeling him in, Lewis tends to pull away. As we keep edging closer and closer to that 40-minute mark, we now see a fair amount. At least half of the field has either been through or are in the pits at the moment. Jan Bago Robert decides he's going to continue and do at least another lap, as Lewis decides he's going to do his pit stop on this lap, as 17 laps are now down for the leaders. Mr. Grobler, enjoy that top spot. As those coming out of the pits would probably need to just remember those tyres need to be warmed up again. As we hit that halfway mark, we see majority of the drivers have now either served or are in the pit stops. Or in the pit stop. Kube sitting in second position at the moment, of course still needing to serve his pit stop, with Van Lochrenberg right behind him. Johan Berger-Grobler having gone into the pits. So he will serve that out. As we have under 40 minutes to go, already past that halfway mark. Skitter being the last of the top 5 that hasn't done his pit stop, with Lewis right behind him. Lewis, of course, would want to come out in front of Johan Berger-Grobler, who's busy serving out his pit stop. Unfortunately not. He was held back somewhat. Not even sure if he wasn't held back there, if he would have gotten ahead of Mr. Grobler. So as it stands, Grobler holding that first position, as in Kube still needs to serve his pit stop, with Fourie and Skitter in 3rd and 4th respectively, also needing to do theirs. Lewis desperately trying to get past Skitter. Decides to take the inside. Now going side by side, pushes Skitter out slightly. Sure, he's going to try and gain some time. Bernard King right behind Ottens. So the battle between these two continue, with Isherwood right behind. Battle of the Astons. Quite enjoying that car myself. Thank you, JT. Nicely tucked in behind each other. King getting some nice exit speed out there, going in side by side next to Ottens, as they duke it out in the Camel Straight. Oh, King decides to take the front. Ottens decides to sneak in behind. Just keep his nose in it. Are we going to see contact? Unfortunately, we do. Luckily, Ottens isn't too badly affected, but definitely slowed him down. Sure, that will be reviewed. Unfortunately, Isherwood being a little bit overzealous in that corner, it would seem. At least everyone's back on track, all 4 wheels pointing in the right direction. Lewis currently in third position. His last lap being a 2:18.081, slightly up on his previous time, or his previous lap. Krobler has now got himself a bit of a lead over Lewis. His best lap time being a 2:17.718. Kube currently in first position, but obviously still needing to do his pit stop. Perhaps he's planning on pushing it all the way through, trying to get that last 5-minute squeeze. Jan Krobler now with an 11-second lead over Lewis. So unless he hits some back markers or else has a reasonable slide out, it's going to be rather difficult for Lewis to try and catch up. Check in midfield, Junior McCall sitting in a Ferrari sandwich. Max ahead, Ferrari behind. As he's eyeing the 12th position. Definitely going to be testing Max, and it seems he didn't have to wait too long. What is his exit speed like? Is he able to gain on Antel? He does. In fact, he is able to nudge past him. Junior McCall's best time being a 2:18.582. Not quite where he'd want to be, with his last lap a 2:19.635. Under 30 minutes to go. Kube after 22 laps, still out on the track. Kube though sitting with a 39-second lead over Krobler. And with a 32, oh, he is actually in the pits at the moment. Grobler now reclaiming that top spot as he goes past Nkube sitting in the pits. Tariq Adam now sitting in third position. His best lap being at 2:17.730, with his last lap being at 2:18.840 or 480. Apologies. Sitting in a bit of an Audi sandwich. Clue behind, Lewis in front. And then a barrage of Astons behind that, with King, Ottens and Isherwood in 5th, 6th and 7th respectively. Edison sitting behind the two Ferraris, Max and Ferrari. As he gets some good exit speed, goes side by side in the sweeping corner. Flat out in 6. Oh, contact, unfortunately, hitting the inside curb, sliding. Oh, that nose is going to hurt. That's going to be more than just bruised. And unfortunately, Ferrari also sliding out somewhat, trying to maintain the control. I'm not sure if Addison will continue or just go and have that repaired immediately. I do agree. Junior McCall sitting in 11th position. His funky light. GMX, thanks for popping in. As always, you're more than welcome to even pop in the booth if you like. Come and say hello to your peeps. Kuba now sitting in 10th position after holding it somewhat. Do I see an accident for 263? No. No, just the timing of the pit stop would it seem, and perhaps a slide or two, but Kuba is sitting right behind Antle. I'm sure he's going to want some points out of this evening. The higher in the top 10, the better. Kube keeping his foot flat throughout Rouge, sitting right behind Antle. Unfortunately, he goes out a little bit wide, a bit of a drive-through penalty. Bit of a pity. This is definitely not the track that you want to get that on. Lewis is definitely out to prove me wrong, as he's gaining on Johan Bego Grobler, now sitting just shy of 8 seconds behind. So already having made up 3 seconds in the last 3 laps. Which seems to reflect in their lap times, with Johan Bego Grobler sitting with a 2:19, just above a 2:19 race pace. Lewis was sitting with a 2:17 previous lap time. This one unfortunately a 2:18.621, although still gaining small amounts, but gaining nonetheless on Grobler. As Nkube is still sitting nice and snug behind Antle. Unfortunately going a little bit wide. Is he going to try and squeeze on the inside? No, decides to tuck in behind again. Definitely don't want to do any dive bombing on that last corner, or that last chicane. As Nkube goes in to serve his drive-through penalty. As we check in on Skitter. Hopefully a man with enough fuel to last the whole race. Skitter, it would seem, is now the one right at the back, with Edison, Morgan McCall and Van Lochrenberg not having come back in. Looks like they might call it, unless Edison is going to come out after his few hours of repair with that nosedive he did into the wall. Did look painful. Greiling for Retro Slipstream, 12th position at the moment in his number 16 AMG. Nkube's drive-through now cleared, him sitting in 15th position. The only other driver behind him being Skitter. It may seem so. It may seem so. Lewis now having dropped back to 4th position. Clue getting ahead of him. Well, Clue and Adam. Can't see too much damage. Not sure if there was a big spin out. Doesn't look like he has really done much to his vehicle. His last lap being at 2:27.975. So that's roughly where that 10-second loss has come in. So the top four have got quite a reasonable gap between themselves and King, sitting in 5th position. Isherwood in 6th with 6 seconds behind King. Otton's fairly close behind Isherwood, 1.3 seconds, with the Grey and Antle Ferraris behind them in 8th and 9th. Junior McCall in 10th position at the moment. Hall for Retro Esports, sitting in 13th. His previous lap time a 2:19.308, his best a 2:18.948. As we see, majority of the field at the moment sitting close to their 2:19 pace. As we check in on Tariq, sitting with Clue right behind him. Now sitting 8.5 seconds, just above 8.5 seconds behind Grobler. With just under 15 minutes to go. Plenty time for lots of shuffles. That's it, Mr. O. Strategy is key. Definitely well executed. Clue still keeping within that 1 second gap, currently 5/10 behind. Come to the Camel Straight. Both Adam and Clue now gaining on Grobler. Not sure if Grobler is just taking it easy out front, not feeling the pressure, not wanting to slide out. Possibly playing it safe. Fortunately, sometimes safe gets you into trouble. Clue from Blackwater Racing, sitting right on top of Tariq's rear end, now taking the outside. Tariq, of course, will not be giving him the inside. As Tariq holds Clue off. For now, that is, as we get closer to that 10-minute mark. Pit window, only 7.5 minutes remaining. Luckily, everyone has gone through who has needed to go through. Junior McCall still sitting in 10th, right behind Antle. Thanks, Kevin. Not sure if that is some inside info coming out of Team Hybrid. Just under 10 minutes to go. Junior McCall sitting in 9th spot with Max 16.5 seconds behind, so a fairly good lead there as we check in again on Lionel Clue, now challenging Tariq Adam yet again, taking the inside. Is he going to close that door, or is Tariq going to take the inside? Clue decides to take it wide so he can get a bit of runway coming down onto the straight. Tariq keeping it cool, deciding to take his second spot back again. Clue taking it a little bit wide. I'm sure he's keeping an eye on that clock, knows there's under 10 minutes to go, so he doesn't have too much time to try and get in front of and maintain a lead in front of Adam. Junior McCall that is, having taken 8th spot, getting past Antle. Gray now just over 2 seconds ahead of him. Mr. Lewis having dropped out, but having joined the gallery. Welcome. Unfortunate. Great performance you put on. As the sun starts peeking its head out, possibly causing a bit of an issue for the drivers, as it's right in the eye line. Tariq Adam edging closer and closer to Johan Bego Grobler. His previous lap being 5/10 quicker than that of Grobler. And with 5 minutes to go, 7 seconds behind, I think he's going to have to do more than 5/10 each lap. I'm pretty certain he is keeping an eye on what he needs to do. King sitting in 4th position, a fair stretch behind Clue, 28 seconds, coming up to almost 5 minutes remaining. I don't foresee him being able to get onto the podium this evening, but definitely going to come away with some points. As Gray from Retro Electro still keeping that pressure on Ottens. Junior McCall edging closer and closer.
The window is now closed.
That is it, 4 minutes remaining as Grobler still holds the lead. Adam nudging closer. Clue still keeping him on his toes, of course. Definitely not going to let Adam finish the race without the pressure. I think at this stage it's safe to assume, perhaps I should touch all wood around me, that Johan Bego Grobler will be taking this one this evening. I think the biggest question is who will be next to him in 2nd spot. Slow but surely, Clue starting to nudge closer, now taking the outside. Not quite sure whether they'll be able to do side by side. No, again, tucking in behind each other, slightly touching that curb. Definitely losing a little bit of speed on that one. Luckily, Adam can just tow him along. Side by side up through Eau Rouge. No, got a little bit too much curb there. Slowed him down enough for Adam to again just pull away slightly. Great battle between these two. As we have just under 1.5 minutes to go. Adam and Clue still fighting out for a second and third spot. Adam was gaining on Grobler, but possibly with this battle going on, his progression slowed down somewhat. Oh dear. Adam sliding completely out, giving Clue second spot. But I do not believe he will be giving away that third. King is way too far behind. But if Clue plays his cards right, this being the last lap, he will be taking that second spot. Unfortunate there for Adam. He was showing great pace, great consistency. I think we did see a little bit of twitchiness in the last few laps, getting a little bit nervous with Clue constantly bombarding his rearview mirrors as Johan Bego Grobler comes up to the final chicane, and this would then of course be his final lap.
Okay, the leader is on the final lap now. Give it all you can.
Top three as it stands, I believe, is settled. Junior McCall, of course, fighting for a better spot. Still sitting fairly close behind Gray, who is in 7th. This, of course, shall be his last lap to be able to do anything about that. Oh, McCall taking the inside, pushing Gray out slightly. Definitely getting the pull there. Correcting himself, still being able to maintain his speed through the corner is McCall. As Johan Bego Grobler starts coming into the last section. As he puts some additional points on the board for the Hybrid Academy team.
The leader has finished the race.
Nicely done there, Mr. Grobler, Mr. Clue, and Mr. Adam. Coming in third position after his unfortunate slide out with 2 laps to go. King coming in 4th position. Isherwood in 5th. Ottens in 6th. McCall in 7th. Gray in 8th. Antle in 9th. Greiling in 10th. who still needs to, of course, cross the line, as well as Hall, Gerber, Nkube, and Skitter. Max already in on 15th position. Factored Max, no, sitting in the pit stop. As that is then the conclusion of the 4th round, Season 6 Raceface GT3 ACC Championships. Fantastic race between Clue and Adam. I'll tell you, that was absolutely entertaining. Such a pity that apologies, Lewis. You are sitting watching the stream. Tariq, Adam, of course, and Clue, their battle. Very unfortunate that Adam had to go out the way that he did, but still on that podium. Great race by everybody. Thank you very much for those that had joined. Hope you enjoyed it. Definitely looking forward to the next race. Have yourselves a great evening, a great weekend, and we shall see you next week. Hasta la pasta.